Christopher Jones. I am a Latin American born. Grew up in UK from a child of probably 10 years old. Did my schooling there, education, joined the Royal Navy, spent my time in the services, did all the usual things, the Cold War, the Belize in Venezuela, the Mediterranean trips, all that. But I'm now at an age where I'm 60 something, right? And I have just recently listened to a radio channel called LBC. You may or may not know this. This is a London radio station that promotes a lot of good, modern, up-to-date news, debates, what should I say, challenging in many ways. Now, I was listening to this station, and this morning it has come to my attention that they're going to act on raising the age of retirement or for working to 70. I think it's already been formalized, and they're putting it into action as a government prerequisite. Now, I wanted to discuss this with you guys because depending on what age you're at, this is going to affect you either short term or long term. I mean, in terms of whether it acts well for you now, or you're a young person listening to this and you think, okay, that's a long way away. It's not really a big issue. But if I'm looking at people around my age, 50s, 60s, and those who are not quite 70s yet, what is it that you would actually say? I mean, let me just give you a snapshot of what was said in this interview on this kind of discussion on the radio. They had people calling in, and people were saying things like, some said, yes, I don't mind doing it because obviously they appreciate the broader scale, and the government basically screw up with pensions, and that if pensionable individuals haven't got the resources from those who worked previously and etc., all the way down that line, you cannot get your pension. You cannot get the level or the value for your pension for the years you worked. Now, as it turns out, I remember about 6 years ago there was something in the UK, and I'm sure they actually said they were going to raise it from 65 to 67. And I think that's already been enacted, and it's already in place now as we speak. Now we'll find 4, 5, 6 years later, there's another discussion to raise it yet again to an older period, to 70 now. So here's my qualms about this. And again, I'll reflect on some of the comments that people made on the radio station. Is that, hey, do you actually want to work until you're 70? Is this a viable proposition for your life, for your health, and for your, as they throw this at us all the time, to keep you occupied? Because when you don't get occupied, or when you remove yourself from a working environment, is that you somehow lose the train of thought and the desires to maintain yourself, and you die. This is the kind of the arguments they're trying to throw forward. Is that if you're not active, i.e. if you're not working, if you're not doing something with yourself, be it a hobby, whatever, but in particular we're talking about work here, I'll kind of say, is they're saying this is going to help you to extend your life cycle. Think on that. Now, some of the people who have spoken on the radio stations, some were really against it. They were saying, look, first of all, there's a scenario, this guy, he's a driver, and he's been driving since he was 18. He's been doing all kinds of different jobs, but he ended up coming back to driving. And he's now 61. He's 61, and he should be retiring in a few years' time. By the standards he was set at the time he started work, he was supposed to retire at 65. So he's got a few years to retire. But now the government's come along and said, okay, this is going to change now. It's 67. So now he's going to work till 67. Now they come in again with another incremental saying, we're looking at upping that to 70. This isn't a debatable situation. This is probably likely what they're going to do, because the Treasury don't have the funds for those people as I said, who worked before, put their money in the government kitty or coffers, and somehow the government screwed it up, and now they're going back to these people who've done their time, did their dues, and now they're saying, you got to work more because we're fucked up. You need to work more. You need to invest more of your later life that you should be enjoying, doing the things you want, traveling, see, spend time with your grandparents and grandchildren. These kind of shit, they're saying now they are reducing that because you're not going to spend time in a working environment again. Anyway, that's my point. So this guy's saying, I don't want to do this. He says, to be honest, since it changed to work to 67, he says, my health has gone down. He says, fine, I'm working. He's doing like 50 hours a week. He's now gone back to driving. He was doing security work, then back to driving. And he says, all that display that the government's saying that by keeping active is supposed to help you to extend your life, he says that's nonsense, because basically you don't have the time to do the things that would relax you. You don't have the time to invest in the people around you you love at your older age. You know, you're talking about your sunset periods, right? So he is really riled up about this, and he's asking many people on the radio station to put their input on it, and they're all saying, in the majority, yes, we don't want to be working those long hours. We don't want to extend our lifestyle into a working environment. We want to enjoy it. We want to choose if we want to work. We want to choose if we have a hobby. We want to have the choice. However, there are a few people on the other scale of that who are saying, no, it's a good idea. I want to work. I want to make extra money so that they can provide more for their offsprings, their grandchildren, and to assist them in other ways, right? But also they want the independence to be able to have a little bit extra money to maybe do the odd things, maybe, I don't know, like fly somewhere, spend more time on a cruise liner, that kind of stuff. But from looking at the figures, you could actually see there's much more of against as it is for having the extension. What I want to know from you guys is, what is your thoughts? What are your thoughts on being in a situation where your choice is removed, where this scenario that they're painting, that it's good to have a purpose in life as you get older, whether it's going to really benefit you from a health perspective, from a mental perspective, they're saying it keeps you sharp, and from a general sense of achievement, if that's what you need to do at your age, or whether just being involved in societal thing, in a working environment, is really going to add value to your life, as opposed to you choosing what you want to do. So for you younger guys, I'm sure probably it's not even on your radar. You don't even think about it, but I think you should do, because in effect it's going to affect you down the line. So put a little bit of time in, guys, now. Give it some thought. What is it would you want to do? Would you want to have a set law that says at this age this is what you're going to get, this is how long you're going to work, and that's non-negotiable? Or you will look to it changing because your politicians, your government, your financial system that you're living in your country, continue to screw up, continue to use the resources that you worked all of your lives and you've put aside for these rainy days, for these older days, for these retirement periods. How does that stand with you? You younger guys, right? The older guys, again, how would this work for you? Are you looking forward to this possibility of working until you drop, as they say? Are you looking at this and thinking, this is going to have a knock-on effect on my health, and I don't even know if I'm going to get quality of life when I get to 70? What measures are going to be put in place to assist you to work, to assist you to keep a quality of mobility, of being able to be free to go into a hospital that you're not going to pay for privately, privately, that you would have to pay for to keep yourself going to work should you have an illness, should you have something that's going to work against that very goal. Should the national health, certainly in the UK, I'm not sure it works like in other countries, be part of this scheme that should you work later, they are there to provide for you through your taxes. They are there to support you should you fall ill, seriously or otherwise. In the UK, this was something that used to happen, but as you can see, that's gradually ebbed away. We're at a point now where the NHS, National Health Service, is taking a nosedive on precipitous levels. In other words, the things you could have done 5 years, 10 years, 2 decades ago, to go to the hospital or go and see your local doctor, he prescribes something, he gets you to go and see some specific guy, you know, that knows your area of sickness, you know, and he can prescribe or advise for you to go to either go and get your dentals done, the hospital for operation, for internal assessments, this kind of stuff. Is this something that would perhaps give you more likelihood to accept to work later if this was put in place? Some form of security for you as the working person who is now being pushed into working longer years in your life to take care of any possibilities that come your way should you embark on this extension. What else would you want to add to this? Is it even viable? Should you do it? Should you be pushed to it? Should you have the options? And why should you? Why should you be the person who this falls back on when you've done your dues over the last 30, 40, 50 years to be placed back on the chessboard, to be another pawn again, to be shifting around just so those guys at the top, politicians, financiers, business people, have now got you by the throat, and now the ones who dictating how you should use your life, how you should validate, qualify, utilize your health as it stands right now, whether it's good or bad. How is it that they have this right and they have this persuasive means through the government, through the system, that nails you to having to abide by the new rules? I can only speak from the UK perspective. I mean, I'm here in Manila, and certainly I have different scenarios I'm going to be working with. I have to provide for myself. I have a brother who's 4 years younger than me in the US. Together we're going to set up something. We're going to try and find a lifestyle that suits us with all resources combined so that we can get the best for our later years. This is how I'm standing. I'm one of the lucky ones with my brother. But most people, I would imagine, across the board, blue-collar workers and below, proletarians, the ordinary folks in the streets, basically cannot afford. They cannot afford, A, to have their lives extended and be working for pittance. Not like they're working and getting something, a good ROI on their efforts, for their experiences over the years, for what they bring to the government's coffers. No, they're still going to be working shitty, basic, low-wage, low-paid jobs, and they're under the control of management. They're under control of whether they choose you because they think you look right, you're not the right color, you don't have the right skill set, you don't fit their needs in terms of what they call requirements. It may not necessarily be because you can't do the job, but because they choose you based on what they want to look for rather than what you can actually offer, if that makes sense. So my question again, lastly, before I leave this, is that would you want to work Would you want to extend? Do you believe it's a valid, viable point? Forget the socio aspect of it. You're not responsible for the socio aspects and the failures that the system has created. You're here for yourself, and I don't mean that in a selfish manner, in a protective manner. You're protecting your values, your health, your well-being, your freedom of choice, your freedom to make a decision based on what you believe you're capable of, or what you believe your present current situation or future proofing plans are. If you feel this aligns with working to 70, fine. But I'm wondering if most people don't see that. Do they honestly feel it has benefits? Do they feel it's going to grow them into something better, make them achieve something that really is going to bring added value or any form of quality ROI life values to you when you're probably already 50, 60 and you're thinking, you know what, I've done my bit. I've worked hard the last 40, 50, 60 years, and I was looking forward to this retirement. I'm looking forward to going out, doing the things I want to do, spend time in my garden, spend time with my grandchildren, and not worry about having to find a job or be placed in some crappy job because I must. And most people probably would be in a scenario where it's not that they can go back to a job they've done, a skill set they know from 10 years, 20 years ago. No, you'll be stepping into gray jobs you don't really want to do and you probably hate because your skill sets have now become ancient. They're not so much usable in most cases, I believe. Okay? It would have moved on. Whatever sector you're in would have moved on. It would have improved. It would have got to a level that you were almost a newbie all over again. Like me, I was in IT. I was a Unix admin. I doubt if I can ever walk back into that because it's kind of like exponentially progressed and developed way past what I know. So I would then have to find a job, either manual job, the streets, the shops, McDonald's, KFC, a coffee shop, whatever it is, sweeping floors, working as maybe a hotelier. Even that I may not have access because you have to have certain security levels and certain level of social skills. So most people, I believe, will find themselves having to do jobs that they really do not want to do. But because they have to step into a role that's against their choice, their better judgment, and even something they would even want to do, period. So guys, I'm going to call it a day here. I'd be interested to hear your responses as to where you stand, what age you're at, is it viable, is it a good idea, is it socially what you would think, you feel comfortable with, or are you more like, you know what, this is my time, I want to use my time my way, and what's your viewpoint on that? All right, thanks very much. Chris in Manila, nice talking to you guys. Take care.